Thank you so much, Bev. I'm really excited to be here. As you said, I am the new president of the Institute for Women's Policy Research, and this is actually my first Equal Pay Day in that role. And so I'm really excited about the conversation that we'll have today, but also the work we are doing at IWPR with our coalition partners to really think about what the pay gap means in the lives of women across the country. We launched, last week, we launched an ambitious Equal Pay Day campaign. But as you know, the pandemic has really caused us to not only think about the impact of the equal pay, of the wage gap, in the lives of women and families, but has also started us thinking about what does an economy that works for all women look like. So Bev started out with some statistics about the 82 cents on the dollar, statistics that we all hear. What we know is that given the current wage gap is that it'll take about 39 years to close the gap, and we know that the gap has slowed. And for Black and Latino women, what we know is that it's going to take more than a century. For me, what that means is that my daughter and my daughter's daughter will not see pay equity in their lifetimes. So there's so much I think we can do, and we'll have this conversation here a little bit and hope to hear from you all about what we can do to accelerate the closing of the wage gap. The current pandemic has highlighted not only the fragility of our healthcare system, but also our economy as well. Many low-wage workers are bereft and without adequate resources to get them even through 2 weeks without pay. What we know is that lower wage workers are also less likely to have paid sick leave, the flexibility to not work, or savings to tie them over. What does this mean for equal pay, or for the pay gap? When there's a disparity in the earnings and wages of women compared to men, women are more economically vulnerable and insecure at times like this. It's less money in their pockets to provide for their families, buy basic necessities, and get through an economic financial crisis, which we find ourselves in today. When we look at the wage gap by occupation and sectors, what we see is that in every occupation, with the exception of about 5 out of 125 or 150 occupations, the earnings of men outpace women, even in sectors where women dominate. And so what that means is that there are very few professions that women out-earn men, even when they have equal skills, equal talent, and apply equal effort. What we know is that what this means is that over a lifetime, women will lose more than $1 million in earnings to the pay gap. And Latina and Black women will lose 3 to 4 times more. During our Equal Pay campaign, we really tried our hardest to highlight, again, what the loss of earnings or these earnings mean to women in their lives. And what we know is that it's less money to save with, less money for retirement, less money to provide for their families. And then when we look at the intersections of race, gender, ethnicity, gender identity, and also circumstances, we know that undocumented women, transgender women, and formerly incarcerated women face additional barriers in relationship to employment, but also the pay gap. It's estimated that transgender women, the pay gap is 40% more once they transition. And so in our work at IWPR, we're really trying to work to highlight the experiences of a diverse group of women, and so that when we are talking about the 80 cents on the dollar, we can understand very clearly what that means for women and populations and groups who are often left out of the conversation, and really creating a very intersectional analysis in terms of understanding the impact of wage inequality and the pay gap on women, families, and communities. One of the things, and I'm going to turn it over to our other speakers in a minute, but in terms of thinking about solutions, what this moment, this pandemic really brings up for me, and I think in our work, is that the economy that as it's currently been configured is not working for most of us, most working families, most single mothers. And so we have an opportunity to really think about what kinds of policies, what kind of strategies, how we connect with employers and businesses to make sure that we build an economy or create an economy that works not just for the few at the top, but for everyone. So I'm going to leave it at that, and I look forward to the discussion following the other presentations.